guys, my name's Laura and I'm the Specky Seamstress. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you a bit about my kind of sewing creative process. I get asked quite a lot about like how I manage to get a lot done and how I manage to stay creative and inspired. And I did a series a little while ago talking about the activities I kind of do related to sewing when I'm not feeling particularly inspired. Talking about some P's of like preparation and presentation and practice, things that help me kind of stay motivated and involved with sewing when I'm not in the mood to create. But I've kind of been thinking a bit, it's one of those that's been playing on my mind as to how I kind of put into words the rest of that story and, you know, what I'm doing when I'm in the various stages of creativity, because it is massively varying. I do not always feel 100% inspired, but it's not a kind of a switch on, switch off thing. There's lots of stages and kind of almost a cycle. And I don't know, it suddenly sort of clicked a little bit. I was pondering what video to put out today, and I have some lovely makes to show you. It just sort of clicked as to how I might try and explain this. I still think I'm going to explain it badly, but I'm hoping it makes some form of sense and is a bit interesting. So I've got 10 kind of stages of the sewing creative process that I find I end up in, and it's not really a cycle because it's not linear or cyclical. Like, I don't go from one to the other to the other to the other back to the start again, although I might sometimes. I think that these kind of states and part of the cycle are not the same either. Like, you can have them for an individual make. You can go through all of these stages, an individual pattern, particularly if you like to make lots of them like me, or it can be a bit more macro about your general feeling towards sewing and craft and creativity, and they can be impacted by a whole range of things. So this is not like a, if you're in this stage and you want to get to this stage, this is the process kind of video. But let's start off with a positive one. My first state is inspired or inspiration. It might be that you see a fabric that you love and you immediately know what you want to make with it, or you see a pattern, whether that's a new pattern release that you see from a newsletter subscription or on Instagram, or you see a version of a pattern that you haven't particularly been inspired by before and it makes you really want it. That's what happened with the big sleeved Adrienne and Adriana. Or you might just happen across something else that inspires you. It might be something you see in a ready-to-wear shop, or you pull something out of your wardrobe that you haven't worn in a long time, or anything, and it just clicks that spark in your head that says, yeah, I could do this, I can create something. And I don't think that inspiration stage ever lasts very long for me. That sounds kind of negative, but I don't mean it that way. I mean that it's that spark that gets me into the other parts of this process where I actually go and make something. But it's a really great feeling, and you can have a general state of feeling inspired to do stuff. I think that's particularly true quite early on in your sewing, because there's so many opportunities and so much potential to make stuff, and it's all kind of new and exciting. So I think, yeah, inspiration is a really fun part of this sewing journey. And then I kind of moved to, I mean, I said it's not linear. There is some progression, I guess. There's kind of 3 states that could be sparked from inspiration for me, or 4, I suppose, really. So the first is planner. I might write down all of the things that I want to make. I'm a big to-do list writer, not a big to-do list checker offer, but writing stuff down makes me feel planned and organised. And even if I only tick off 1 or 2, having them written down makes me feel like at least I've expressed what it is I want to do, and then I can kind of prioritise. Ultimately, if you write a to-do list and you only tick off 1 or 2, and I'm talking about to-do lists like of choice here, it's probably because you're only actually, like, they're the top ones, they're the ones you really wanted to do, and so it's quite a good way to prioritise, actually. You know, if you write a to-do list and your mind is drawn to one thing immediately, then that's probably what you wanted to do. But planning can be a whole host of other things. Planning was one of my P's for when you're uninspired, so do go check out that video if you're interested in more kind of planning activities that you can do. But I do think, like, the planner in me comes out for, and it's not just sewing. I also, when I was writing these down and kind of thinking about it, I think that it's true in lots of aspects of life, but it's certainly true for me when planning videos or when creating content for this channel. I might become a planner. I might become a student. So a student for me is when I'm really excited about learning something new. So that kind of kick of inspiration might have been something that I've never done before and never made before, and I want to learn how it works and I want to learn how to do it. So that might lead, that kind of student state might lead me on to doing some practice of new techniques, whether that's in a garment or standalone. And practice was another one of my P's for when you're feeling uninspired. So and I've had a few people message me about that series that I did, because I think at the minute quite a few people are feeling like they want to do lots and lots of sewing or lots of craft or lots of creativity because they have a bit more time, they're at home. It's a really good kind of productive use of time, not that you have to be productive, but you know, it's nice to, a nice activity to be taking part in right now, but struggling to kind of feel motivated to do it. And I think that, so a few people have said, you know, they're practicing some of the P's that I put out, and I think yeah, like planning and practice, definitely things that happen to me after I've been inspired by something. Sometimes I head straight to creator mode and I just do stuff, and it's great. I think that creator or creative mode is probably like the happiest combination of all things. So you just do stuff, and if it works, it's fab, and if it doesn't, it kind of water off a duck's back, doesn't bother you at all. Again, these are all interlinked, and that might happen for one make, but at the same time you're tearing your hair out over something that you just can't perfect a technique, or you can't understand the instructions for something. So none of this is like, you know, euphoria. I mean, it might be, which is great, but I do think that creative mode is like the height. It's like the peak of just getting stuff done. And I think during that creator mode, it's like the perfect blend of being process driven and output driven. So I think when I'm inspired, I'm output driven. I'm thinking about the garments in my wardrobe already and how I'm going to wear them and how I'm going to style them. And when I'm kind of planning and being a student, I'm thinking about the process, about learning, about you know, what I'm going to do. And I think that creator mode is that like, I'm both. I want to do it really well, but I also want the garment at the end of it. So I think that that's what I try to strive for, but it doesn't always happen. And I do think even the process of writing this down for me has been really useful. So I hope it's kind of useful for you. I do feel like I'm being very babbly, but we shall see. So I said that inspired could lead to 4 different kind of statuses: planner, student, creator. The 4th one is hacker, which I think is a bit of a combination of creator and student, but it's that engineering part of my brain that clicks into place and says, oh, I could do this and this. It's kind of a second wind inspiration. You know, it happens to me quite a bit if I've made a couple of versions of something, and I have lots of projects on the go concurrently. I think you guys probably know by now that I like to keep busy, and I do get a lot of stuff made. So I might be making a couple of different things, and then I think, oh, these could be hacked together or mashed together, or why don't I change up this to include this feature of that? And so it's kind of a second wind inspiration, and how can I fit these things together? And it's like student and creator blend, because I want to learn new stuff and try new stuff, but it's a much more creative end of the spectrum than kind of sitting down and planning things, I think. And then I kind of, you know, go into a few other states that are probably less exciting but definitely part of my sewing process 100%, and I guarantee I'm not the only one. I think where I've been at in the last couple of weeks is Overdrive. So I enjoy the buzz of that creator part of the sewing process so much that, you know, you can't get too much of a, you know, good thing. No such thing as too much of a good thing. And I just want to make all of the things and all of the versions of all of the things. I'll be pulling fabric out of my stash and be surrounded by pattern pieces and fabric. I mean, I talk to you currently surrounded by pattern pieces and fabric for all the different makes. And I'm thinking, I need to make 12 of these because I love them and I want them in my wardrobe, and I've got 12 fabrics that will be perfect for it. And I can't physically get the things that I want that are in my head produced quick enough because my brain is working on new things all the time. That happens with my YouTube channel as well. I do definitely go through all of these kind of processes with that, and Overdrive is quite hard to deal with because filming a video and editing a video takes time and energy, and I found it really hard when I've got lots and lots and lots of ideas and I can't physically kind of get them all out to you. And yeah, it definitely happens to me in the sewing room, and that is where I've been at for the last couple of weeks. You're kind of running, it's not sustainable, but you feel like you can get everything done, and you get so much done that even though it's a percentage of what you kind of maybe wanted to get done and planned to get done, you're still kind of going at a million miles an hour. But unfortunately, because it isn't sustainable, Overdrive tends to lead to overwhelm, which is kind of where I've hit in the last couple of days. I can't decide what fabrics to pair with what patterns. I thought I had a plan for a pattern, but I can't seem to convince myself that the fabric I'd chosen was the right one anymore. Does that sound familiar? I think that I spend quite a lot of time in overwhelm because I spend quite a lot of time in Overdrive, and yeah, it's really tough actually to get out of overwhelm. And I think quite often for me, overwhelm does lead to that loss of sojo because my sewing room will be a mess. I want to tidy it, but I don't know where to start because the fabric that I'd put out in a pile to make 3, 5, 6 pairs of trousers because I found a pattern I liked, I don't really want to put those away because then they won't become the trousers that I wanted to make, that I wanted in my wardrobe. And so I end up with lots of like scatty piles around my sewing room. But I know that I'm not going to get back into that kind of organised planning process in a messy environment. So I find, yeah, quite often, this is maybe more linear than I kind of gave it credit for, although it can be mix and match with lots of things going on. But overwhelm is where I've hit. And I think that is the point where it's very easy to kind of throw everything up, like throw your toys out of the pram and say, well, it's not going to work, I can't do it. I think overwhelm for me is a lot of imposter syndrome, like, oh, I'm no good at this anyway. Why am I even doing this? Like, why am I putting myself out there with this? It's all going to go wrong. I quite often make simple mistakes when I'm in overwhelm because I've still got that hangover of Overdrive where I want to get lots and lots of stuff done. So I'm already thinking about the next project when I'm sewing the current one. Definitely not process driven at all. All about the output and all about like the volume of output rather than the quality. Quite often in overwhelm I make something that afterwards I think, I was never going to wear that very much. Like, why have I done that? And I'm getting better at that. I'm getting better at checking myself. And I mean, I'm ultimately, I think, getting better at pairing fabrics and patterns to be things that I will wear in my wardrobe a lot. But I do find myself, sometimes what I do is if I've paired a pattern with a fabric, late at night. Overwhelm tends to mean I don't do very much in the day because I'm stressed about not being able to do it. And then at night, I'm like, well, I haven't done anything all day. I need to go and do stuff. And then I'll pair a fabric with a pattern. And what I've kind of got good at now is saying, I'm going to wait till the morning and I'm going to come back to this. And sometimes I look at the things I've picked in the morning and think, Laura, that was never going to work. So yeah, overwhelm. Sometimes I follow up overwhelm with what I have sort of called list ticker. I might go grab some lists that I've written up. I've got plenty of lists in my phone, and I've got a cute little list like to sew notebook from Pink Coat Club where I've been writing down my lists. And I'll go back and I'll say, hey, I really wanted to make this, but I haven't yet. And I quite often will choose an easier make, something that isn't too challenging, that I don't need to go and learn lots of new things. And I'll make that. And I might make it in something really simple. I might make a plain top, a plain t-shirt that I can just wear with other things. And I don't need to feel particularly inspired for it. I don't need to feel particularly creative for it, but it just gives me a bit of a kind of instant satisfaction, I guess, that I can still do this. I've ticked that thing off that list that I wrote down because I wanted to make it, and I feel good. And I have sort of started to do that at the minute. So some of the things I'm making at the minute are just like simple gathered skirts that will go really well in my wardrobe, and I don't always feel inspired to make because I want to make something a bit more challenging or a bit more out there. And then the last two could be the other way that overwhelm leads to. So overwhelm could lead to uninspired, complete lack of sojo. I've talked more about that in that video series, so I'll kind of leave that there. It can also lead to guilt. You know, I talked a little bit about, well, I should have made this. Why haven't I done that? I find that a lot. I find that goes a lot like hand in hand with overwhelm for me. I feel guilty that I haven't done stuff. I feel guilty if I haven't filmed those videos that I said I was going to, or talked about makes that I made a little while ago, but I still feel like I want to film a video. I feel guilty if I, yeah, just like, you know, I don't need to tell you all of the reasons I feel guilty in my sewing journey. But they're the 10 states of my sewing creative process. I hope that's been interesting. I'd love to hear if any of those resonate with you, or whether you've got different ones that you add as well. Anyway, thanks so guys for watching. Thanks so much guys for watching. I hope you're staying home and keeping safe, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.